I have been the evening shift tapkeeper at the Crossed Axle for 11 years, and in those 11 years, I have seen a good number of things that surprised me. But I want to tell you about the year that Teva Ironwood came through. Teva Ironwood was a veteran fighter who had stopped fighting. She had been with the Korreth Marchers for 14 seasons, the Green and Black Guard, the outfit everyone in the Eastern Territories knew on sight. 14 seasons means you have seen everything, and Teva had. She had the bearing to show for it. 8 feet of green-skinned, tusk-jawed, braided orc warrior who walked into a room and immediately changed the air in it. Not because she was threatening. She was actually extremely calm. It was more that everyone looked at her and made a rapid adjustment. She came into the Crossed Axle on a Wednesday in early autumn because she was passing through Hartwell on her way to somewhere else, and she needed a meal and a room. Simple. What she got was a problem with the stairs. This is embarrassing to explain, but the Crossed Axle staircase has always had a height issue. The ceiling at the top of the second floor landing is 6 feet 4. Most of our guests manage it. Teva Ironwood was not most of our guests. She got halfway up the stairs and stopped, looking at the ceiling with the expression of someone doing patient mathematics. The owner of the Crossed Axle is Bram Kettler. Bram is 5 feet 8, 43 years old, and has the quality of manner of someone who has run a waystation tavern his whole life. He treats everyone the same. He always knows where everything is, and he has never, in my 11 years of watching him, made a person feel unwelcome over something that wasn't their fault. He came out from behind the bar when he saw her stop on the stairs. He said, "Hang on a moment." He went to the storage room and came back with a handsaw and a section of trim. He looked up at the landing. He pulled a stool over and stood on it and looked at the low-hanging beam cross-section above the landing. He got a measuring tape. He measured Teva Ironwood, which she permitted with a slightly surprised expression. He measured the clearance. He said, "Give me 40 minutes." Teva came back down the stairs and sat at a table, and I brought her a meal and a cup of everything we had warm. She ate. She watched Bram work. He was methodical about it. He had done renovation work before he ran the tavern, and it showed. He notched the beam mount, adjusted the header, and added 2 inches of clearance to the landing ceiling. It was not a small amount of work. He did it in 37 minutes. He dusted off his hands and looked at her and said, "Try it now." She went up the stairs. She cleared the ceiling with about an inch to spare. She came back down, which was not strictly necessary, but she did it anyway. She said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because you needed a room." She looked at him for a moment. Then she said, "I would have slept in the barn." He said, "You're a paying guest. You get a room." I watched this from behind the bar. I want to note the specific expression on Teva Ironwood's face at that moment, because I have thought about it since. She was not moved in an obvious way. She did not show gratitude in the large dramatic way that gratitude sometimes comes out. She just looked at him with an expression that was very still and very attentive, the way you look at something you are trying to understand precisely. Then she went up the stairs and went to her room. She stayed 3 days. She had said she was passing through on her way to somewhere else, and technically that was still true, but the somewhere else kept not happening. She ate her meals at the same table. She ordered the same meal every time, which was the lamb stew with the dark bread. She was quiet, and she did not bother anyone. On the second morning, the wagon wheel on the grain delivery cart split. This happens twice a year or so. The cart is old and the cobblestones in the yard are uneven. Normally Bram handles it himself, which takes about half a day. I found Teva Ironwood in the yard at 6 in the morning examining the wheel with the focused attention she seemed to bring to all practical problems. She had already identified the split, assessed the spoke damage, and apparently made a shopping list, because when Bram came out she handed him a folded note with a list of materials. She said, "I can do this faster than you can if you want." He said, "I'd be grateful." She fixed the wheel in 2 hours. She had a particular way with mechanical work. Precise and economical, no wasted motion. The wheel was better after she touched it than it had been before it broke. Bram thanked her. He said, "What do I owe you?" She said, "Nothing." "You fixed the stairs," he said. "That was just good hosting." She said, "Yes." They looked at each other. I was watching from the kitchen window. Neither of them seemed to know what to do with the conversation after that, which in my observation is actually a good sign. On the third day she was still there. I asked her when she was leaving. She said, "I don't know." I said, "Are you staying?" She said, "I don't know." She seemed genuinely uncertain, which was something I had not previously associated with Teva Ironwood or anyone of her general category. She was a veteran fighter who had stopped fighting, and she was apparently not entirely sure what to do next. On the fourth morning, Bram asked her at breakfast if she wanted temporary work. The autumn delivery season was coming, and he needed another hand for unloading. She said, "I am not what you would call a delicate worker," he said. "I know. That's why I'm asking." She stayed through the autumn delivery season and into winter. She was not delicate. She was, however, reliable, good at structural problems, pleasant to the guests in the specific way of someone who is politely terrifying, and, I noticed over time, increasingly easy in the company of Bram Kettler. The thing about Teva Ironwood that I came to understand over that winter was that she had spent 14 seasons being the most formidable thing in any room she entered, not because she was cruel, but because she was capable, and capable at that level tends to close off the regular kind of ease. You cannot be at ease with someone who is visibly categorizing you as a threat profile. Bram Kettler did not do that. He had never done that with anyone, and he did not start with her. He treated her the way he treated every guest and employee of the crossed axle, which was with simple, practical decency. He fixed the stairs because she needed a room. He thanked her for the wheel because she had helped. When she said something, he listened. When she was quiet, he did not try to fill it. I watched her become easier by degree, not softer in the dangerous sense. Teva Ironwood was never going to be small, but she started telling him things about the Korreth Marchers, about the Eastern Road in late spring, about a thing that happened at a river crossing in the fourth season that she had apparently been carrying while he listened to all of it. By the time the passes closed in deep winter, she had stopped talking about leaving. She helped him rebuild the south wall of the storage barn, which had developed a lean. She negotiated a better rate with the grain merchant in a way that Bram described afterward as thorough. She was there when I opened in the mornings, and there when I closed at night. In the spring, she told him she had been thinking about the ceiling issue on the third floor. He said, "What about it?" She said, "I think with the right brackets, we could add 8 inches of clearance without compromising the roof load." He said, "Show me what you're thinking." She showed him. It was a good solution. They spent an afternoon doing the third floor ceiling together. I have been the evening shift tapkeeper at the crossed axle for 11 years. I have seen Teva Ironwood fight exactly once, a situation with some men who were unwelcome in December, which was handled in about 45 seconds and needs no further description. I have mostly seen her fix things and sit quietly and be decent to the guests, and occasionally tell Bram Kettler things she had apparently not said to anyone. She won a great deal in the ring in her 14 seasons. She never lost a recorded bout. I watched her lose her whole bearing in about 3 weeks to a man who just fixed the stairs. Some things, in my experience, are not really about fighting.